If we put out all our tenders at once, then you're going to get perhaps higher tenders than you would if you spread them out. So we're trying to encourage the industry, the construction industry, to keep their workforce even throughout the year. I should also mention, while we're on that subject, that one of the problems that we have in the province is that during the lean years, that was pre 2000, that a number of contractors were going out of business. They weren't, there wasn't sufficient level of work there for them to remain in business. So the number of contractors that we had in this province drastically declined. And as a result of that, we now have one or two, or maybe three fairly large contractors and a lot of smaller contractors. It's our hope that we can get those smaller contractors bigger so that we get a more competitive environment in tendering for contracts. The honourable member mentioned our rubberized road. Yes, that's something that we're doing up at the Michelin plant. We're doing it, I won't say in cooperation with Michelin. They are providing the material, but that's about it. But it's certainly interesting from the point of view of this is a new departure for Nova Scotia. It's not something new in North America, but it's something that I think is going to perhaps be of great benefit, not only in disposing of rubber crumbs, surplus rubber crumbs, but also from the point of view of getting a pavement that's elastic and less prone to cracking. So we have lots of good thoughts on that. We're also using concrete more than we have in the past, and on the next section of the 101, we'll be doing some more work with concrete, and quite possibly we'll be trying it on the 104 as well. Those roads we found with the Cobequid Pass, they stand up very, very well. Cost a little more initially, but long term they're a very good investment. We would expect to get about 30 years out of a concrete road without too much in the way of maintenance along the way, whereas with an asphalt surface you're getting what, maybe 15? About 15 years? I'm searching the heavens for an answer. Around about 15 years.
Thank you. Recognize the member from Pictou West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And well, it's good to know the minister is still working on a priority list for our province, and I assume for Pictou County. And I look forward to getting the updated list on what projects are going to be done when that's available. But just in case there's still some blanks on that list, I want to bring to his attention a couple of roads that I feel are very much in need of repaving or being rebuilt basically from the ground up. And so I particularly point out the White Hill Road, which is back of Westville. It's approximately 5 kilometers long, and it's probably could win the prize as the worst road in Pictou County, probably the worst road in Nova Scotia. It is atrocious. And maybe the minister knows of another road that might win that contest, but I think this one would be right up there near the top. I'm going to point out also the Trunk 4 highway through Salt Springs and Mount Tom, heading on into the members riding in Colchester North, into Kemptown. That road, the Economic Development Committee, known as the Alma Mount Tom Strategic Planning Group, have identified the importance of getting that road repaved to bring in business opportunities and tourism, and they see it as a very important part of their plan to create economic development in that area. I point out the Scotch Hill Road and the West Branch Road also as very, very poor roads that need to be invested in. So there's just 4 examples I'm giving if there's still some blanks on that priority list that you're looking to fill. I'm going to move on now because my time is limited, Mr. Minister. And
5 minutes, member.
Okay. I believe I have to 4:10, I believe, is it? I want to ask about the Truckers Association of Nova Scotia. They have been quite concerned in lack of work. I guess, first of all, they don't find they're getting enough work for their members to keep them going, and their costs have gone up considerably. with fuel and insurance and the capital costs of their vehicles and so on. But yet they tell me their trucking rates are far, far less than what they were in 1990. They've been reduced considerably, and in spite of 20, 30, 40% cost increase even in the last year for some of those things I mentioned, they feel they're behind the 8 ball with not a lot of work, and when they do go to work, they're lined up for long periods of time waiting for their particular truck to be in use, and also the haulage rates in particular are their real major concern. So I wonder, Mr. Minister, you could address that.
Thank you, Member. I recognize the Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Well, first of all, I think the TANS, the Truckers Association of Nova Scotia, has had a pretty good couple of years, actually. They've been busy, I think, right across this province, and I know that there's always a complaint with regard to rates. You remarked that the rates are less now than they were back in the 90s. Well, back in the 90s they were complaining as well, so we altered the rates and we actually increased the rates, but we didn't increase the rates right across the board because they paid different rates for trucking different materials and also for the length of the haul to the from the pit or from the plant site to the job. Late last year, there was meetings between the department and TANS, and I believe we came to an agreement, and that agreement is in place. And as I say, the truckers that I talked to, and I talked to quite a few, they would like more money, but however, they feel that the rates now are fairer than they were and better reflect the actual costs. I should point out, we have a system in Nova Scotia which is called the 80-20 rule, and most people who are involved in construction around the province, whether it be on roads or anything at all, are aware of the 80-20 rule, and it's something that's unique to Nova Scotia. And I don't know who was the minister that got this thing on the road, but whoever it was, unfortunately put in place a system that I don't think reflects the true free market system. We pay, as a province in Nova Scotia, more for a truck to deliver a 12 yards, say, of Class A gravel over 20 kilometers than what a private individual would pay who just phoned up the truck driver and said, I want 12 yards of gravel. Because we pay under a rate that we set and negotiate with the Truckers Association. The Truckers Association also control the workplace in that 80% of the trucks that are used on jobs that are funded by the province must be provided by the local Truckers Association. So they have a captive market, and they also have a guaranteed rate, and the guaranteed rate is higher in most cases. Than what other municipalities or other contractors, etc., pay for those trucks, and they also have the advantage of choosing any trucker that they wish. Whereas the contractors who are contracting to the government do not have that capability.
Thank you. I recognize the member from Pictou West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know my time is limited, so I just, on behalf of the Truckers Association that I deal with in my county, Pictou County Truckers Association, they're still not happy. They're still not feeling they're getting fair haulage rates, and I'm sure you'll continue to hear that from both local associations and the Truckers Association of Nova Scotia. But some of them have gone out of business just from lack of work. Perhaps it's just in our county, but they're feeling real hard cost pressures on insurance and gasoline or diesel oil and so on. I want to come for a minute then to the RIM project, and the leader of our party had mentioned earlier to you if there were contracts let to out-of-province companies, and I wonder if you can give us the details on how many contracts are awarded to out-of-province operations.
Recognize the minister with a quick response. Minister,
There's no out-of-province contractors involved in the RIM program. Short answer.
Thank you. And I'd like, well, yes, but the member from Cape Breton West is just stretching his legs. Member, you do have until 4:10, and it's up to the chairman to order. It's up to the chairman of the committee to recognize the speakers. So at this time, I would like to order, please. Order, please. At this time, I would like to recognize the member from Pictou West with 10 seconds.
What can you do in 10 seconds? I want to thank the minister and his staff for answering my questions, and if I get a further opportunity, I'll be back to see you.
Yes, and thank you. We'd like to thank the NDP caucus this afternoon for their questioning. And at this time, I would like to recognize a member from the Liberal caucus and the member from Cape Breton West. Your time starting, member, 4:10, and you have 1 hour in turn. I'd like to recognize the member from Cape Breton West, and good afternoon to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What an elaborate introduction. My first question to the minister is, can the minister confirm if 100% of all motive fuel tax is going towards highways?
I'd like to recognize the Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Are going to highways and bridges and other structures associated with the highways. In other words, we're putting 100%, more than 100%, probably 101 point something percent of the funding that we receive in motor fuel taxes back into the road system.
Thank you. The member from Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Perhaps the minister can enlighten me then in the estimates in the supplement. I'll send one over. On page B6, Schedule 3 of the estimates, it says for program expenses, Department of Transportation and Public Works, $241 million, 9,000. 241,009. But in Schedule A, page B17, it says motor fuel taxes, $255,872,000. That's a difference of about $14 million, a deficit. Where's the other $14 million?
Thank you for the question. The Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Well, it's a lot more than $14 million. It's $112 million more. Yes, if you go to your estimate book, I found it a moment ago. It's if you go to 1.8 in the estimate book, tangible capital assets, net capital purchase requirements, the summary displays that highways and bridges is $112,227,000 on highways and bridges. And then there's other capital expenditures as well on buildings and infrastructure, etc. But essentially, of that $241 million that is shown on the page you so kindly sent across to me, that is the operational expenditures on all items within transportation and public works, exclusive of capital.
The member from Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to address an issue that was raised by the member for Pictou West on a previous date. It was regards to the impasse between the Nova Scotia Highway Workers Union and the Department of Transportation and Public Works. And as I recall the minister to respond in question, he indicated that this was following the normal collective bargaining process. I was a little surprised to find that, in fact, that is quite not the case, and maybe the minister could enlighten me if I'm misguided on this. Given the fact that this issue has been taken to the Supreme Court, of Nova Scotia by the Nova Scotia Department of Transportation and Public Works, calling into question the arbitrator as well as the legislation itself. Would the minister be kind enough to enlighten members of the committee as to why the department decided to balk at the arbitrator's decision?
Thank you. Recognize the Minister, Department of Transportation and Public Works.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to get involved in the actual the negotiating stance of either the union or of the Department of Transportation. The workers that are employed by the Department of Transportation, I think there's approximately 2,000 in round numbers, employees that are in the QP, come under the QP umbrella. Now, they are subject to arbitration rather than strike. In other words, if they have any difficulties with their contract and in their negotiations, and an amicable agreement cannot be reached, rather than picking up their signs and walking off the job, they are required to go to arbitration. And that isn't a bad thing either for the union or for the province. First of all, as far as the province is concerned, it means that in the wintertime, if you had a severe storm, etc., and your workers were on strike, well then the province would virtually come to a standstill. And the same thing could actually apply in the summer if there were a bridge or something of that nature under repair. So that's the advantage of the province. For the workers, they have the advantage of going to compulsory arbitration. And there are lots of workers who would love to do that. In fact, at one time, I think our provincial civil service, I think, at one time wanted to go to give up the right to strike and go into compulsory arbitration. And I know that there are a number of entities that the province deals with that employ that method of settling negotiations. The arbitrator, when he, she, okay, sorry about that. The arbitrator, when she looked at the list of arbitrable matters that the union submitted and that the province submitted, decided that there were certain items on the union side that did fall under the right of the arbitrator to decide on. Contracting out was one item that in the last contract the union also appealed, and the arbitrator decided that didn't come under his umbrella of arbitration. This time around, he decided that it was. We feel that is beyond his purview, beyond his mandate. So therefore, we are appealing it as we are permitted under the arrangement that we have for arbitration as a method of negotiation. There are other matters as well that were also decided by this particular arbitrator, and they are also subject to review by the Supreme Court.
Thank you, Minister. I recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Well, I beg to differ with the minister because Section 40, 45, 1 and 2 in particular speak to the issue that he refers to. However, my understanding is more for the issues of correctness and not the reasonableness of the issue. So what I'm interpreting by the government's action is that they are trying to delay the process, which I believe ultimately will end up costing the government more in the end. It will cause disharmony within the labor force of his department. It will call into question a number of other issues as well, and the relationship that the government, prides itself on, which in many cases justified. But let's leave it at that for now. would the minister not agree that this issue that the government has taken to the Supreme Court on the 11th hour after a contract that's expired, more than a year ago? And it's only going to delay it, and this could take upwards of another year before there's any resolve to this. So my question is, what's the benefit to the province of Nova Scotia in the end result?
Introduce the Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Chairman, that honourable member is used to be in government. He's perfectly aware of what negotiations are all about. He's done that in private practice as well. And private practice or government makes no difference. When you are negotiating a settlement with either one or many workers, either unionized or non-unionized, there are negotiations take place. And there are rules for those negotiations. And in the rules that we have with CUPE with regard to the highway workers, arbitration is there, and there's an appeal process there if we do not agree with what is arbitrable in the eyes of the arbitrator. And that's what we've done. It's a perfectly legitimate practice. To say that we're trying to stretch out the arrival at that end where we have a settlement is absolute nonsense. We'd love to settle tomorrow, but however, we want to ensure that the ground rules that have been established are abided by.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the minister is getting a little exercised on this. The fact of the matter is, it's a delay tactic that's going to hurt Nova Scotians, it's going to hurt the taxpayers of Nova Scotia, and it's going to create disharmony within his department that's unnecessary. So I guess the question is, why did the minister and his department allow it to go to the 11th hour before they dropped this on the process? I mean, this is a rather high-handed approach, I would suggest, given the fact that the arbitrator spoke to the issues that the minister referred to. And would the minister not agree that this is unconventional, to say the least?
The Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
I should sit down and cool off a little bit, but that is absolute nonsense, Mr. Chairman. There is a process. The process is always slow for negotiating. As the honourable member is aware, I'm sure whether he's talking about the Nova Scotia Government Employees Union or the Nurses Union or anybody else, there's always a process leading up to when the new contract should be in place, but it doesn't come in place the day after. It goes on maybe for another 12 months or so while negotiations continue. In the end, everybody walks away happy and have been through the process. I'm sure he's not suggesting that we just say to any union that comes along and says, look, we want to settle this and this is what we want, and we say sure and sign it. No.
Thank you, Minister. Before I recognize the member from Cape Breton West, would you permit an introduction this afternoon? Thank you, member. I would like at this time to recognize the good member from Queens and also the Minister of Environment and Labour on an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to, through you, draw the attention of the House to the Speaker's Gallery, where there is two young ladies up there, one Mary Morash, who happens to be my aunt, and her good friend Elsie Hooley, who are here visiting from New Brunswick and enjoying the riveting debate in the House. So I'd ask them to stand and enjoy the appreciation from the House.
Good afternoon, and we certainly welcome you to the House. At this time, I would like to recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With all due respect to the minister, he's misleading the committee. The minister and his department are calling into question.
Order. Member.
Yes.
You well know that comment would be inappropriate for the committee. You're not allowed to use the word misleading in this House. But member, please refrain from using that type of language in the committee. And you do have the floor. I'll check on that and make a ruling shortly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I had suggested he was deliberately misleading the committee, I would agree with you. but I'm suggesting he's misleading the committee. Whether he's doing it by intent or not, with malice or not, I suggest not. However,
Member, you're quite right. If you're not suggesting that he's misleading, if you just use it in a very gentle approach, then it's allowed here this afternoon. So I hope you accept that ruling. You do have the floor. Member from Cape Breton West.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I cannot help but be gentle with this honourable minister, because he deserves the respect with his experience and knowledge of this House and the legislative process. But he does have to admit, by doing what he is doing, he and his department, he is calling into question the integrity of the legislation that he is subscribing to abiding by. So I wanted to put that on the record, because the minister, he can get a little exercised if he likes, and that's his prerogative too, Mr. Chairman. But I suggest that this is a rather high-handed and inappropriate way to deal with the collective bargaining process. But the minister has a different view, and he's entitled to his view, and I am entitled to my view, so we will agree to disagree. And we'll leave the powers to be to make that decision in the end. My next question, Mr. Chair, is with regards to inspections on the highway, with regards to the these weigh scales, and in particular with regards to the trucking industry. I hear complaints from various parties that the number of inspections that are being carried out is down substantially from years past. Can the minister confirm as to how many inspections have been done? How does that reflect the industry? Is it a fairly representative? Is it 10%, 20% of the trucking operations, or what have you?
Thank you. Recognize the Minister of the Department of Transportation and Public Works.
I presume that the member, Mr. Chairman, is speaking about the mobile inspection force, or are you talking about inspections of bridges and that kind of thing?
Member from Cape Breton West.
Well, we'll take it in sections. The first, with regards to these weigh stations. You have one out at the airport, I believe, just out on the other side, out towards Enfield. There's one in Port Hawkesbury, and maybe others. It escapes me. How many inspections have been done in the last year? And what does that represent the industry?
Thank you for the question. Recognize the Minister of the Department of Transportation and Public Works.
I'm advised that we don't have that number with us, but however, it is a number that we can get, because we can get it from the weigh stations. I presume that the member is aware that we only just recently reassumed the responsibility for weigh stations and vehicle inspectors from Service Nova Scotia, and that was just done in the last 2 or 3 months.
Thank you, Minister. I recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
So the minister give me an undertaking he will provide that information? Great, thank you. With regards to the mobile unit, you'll see them periodic spot checks. How many inspections were carried out by that division?
The Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
I think I'll have to get that number for the honourable member too, but I think he was asking for the number of mobile inspectors, and if memory serves me correct, there was 12. Nobody seems to really know, but however, I will get that number for the honourable member. It's quite interesting, Mr. Chairman, that we only have a very small number of inspectors. Do we need more? Probably we do, but there is another methodology that we did contemplate using at one time, and that was to have the RCMP utilize their force, which is on the road at all times, doing inspections that would be normally done by our own forces. Unfortunately, the RCMP decided that they didn't want to undertake that particular task, so we're still where we were about 2 or 3 years ago.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
How many inspections are done at the Nova Scotia-New Brunswick border? Can you tell me that?
The Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
The honourable member seems to be striking on these questions that I don't have the answers for. These numbers are available, and I will have them for the honourable member tomorrow. I did just get confirmation, though, that the number of mobile inspectors and vehicles are 12. There are 12 of those.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
I thank the Minister for that information, but that wasn't quite what I asked. What I asked is the number of inspections and what the results of those inspections were in general. Like, I suppose in focus, is there an increase in the amount of delinquency and the way people care for their vehicles, or is generally, the spot inspections, are they yielding that 80, 90% or 100% of all vehicles that are stopped are have the proper inspections, they're up to standard and so on? That's the type of detail I'm looking for, if the Minister could provide that.
The Minister of Transportation.
Yes, certainly the requirements of the vehicle inspection has not decreased. In fact, I believe it's elevated, particularly with regard to braking systems and for wheel lock nuts, as I understand it. So we don't have wheels flying off our 18-wheelers. But with regard to the actual number of vehicles that are pulled over in a given month or a given year, I don't have those numbers at the top of my head, but I'll make a commitment to provide them to the member tout de suite.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Switching the focus just slightly again, with regards to the piece of legislation that's now before the House, the Capital Transportation Authority, what is the stage of negotiations between the province and the Halifax Regional Municipality on this particular topic?
The Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
I spoke to the mayor of Halifax just very recently, and with the House going on, everything is sort of at a halt at the moment. However, when the House rises, we'll be proceeding again at a pace to consult between my staff and the staff of HRM to arrive and at a proposal that will be incorporated into the framework that the Capital Transportation Act envisages as being the authority.
The member from Cape Breton West.
Is the proposal to have this particular legislation, when it's activated, revenue neutral?
Thank you for the question. Direct that to the Minister of Transportation and Public Works. Minister.
It's a quid pro quo kind of situation. In other words, neither the HRM nor the province would be impacted directly with regard to the authority. To be quite honest, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to cut the honourable member off, but I don't want to get too far out on a limb, because, as I say, this is strictly going to be a cooperative effort between the province and HRM. It's going to be mutually advantageous, Mr. Speaker, particularly, Mr. Chairman, particularly with regard to planning. At the present time, for instance, the city may agree to a subdivision with another 1,000, 1,500 homes in some area. And insofar as the city is concerned, that's fine. But insofar as the Department of Transportation is concerned, it may not be fine with regard to our planning for feeder, excuse me, for feeder traffic into the city. So there's that kind of planning that we're kind of cooperation that we're missing at the present time. That will certainly be one of the things that will be resolved under the Capital Transportation Authority when it's up and running.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Mr. Chair, the minister hasn't given with all clarity that it will be revenue neutral, so I have to presume that it may not be. But we'll look at it from both perspectives. Number one, if it is revenue neutral, there has been considerable concern, it has been raised a little earlier today as well, the issue of toll roads, whether it be on bridges or future road construction or what, in HRM. Once that occurs, well, first of all, and I appreciate the minister's position that it is the government's policy, no toll roads. Okay. Now, my question is to the minister, has there been any discussion between the minister and or his department officials with HRM officials with the issue of toll roads being put in place by this Capital Transportation Authority as one of the vehicles or mechanisms once this legislation is activated?
Thank you for the question. The Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
I want the honourable member to understand that I'm not involved directly in the talks, but it's my understanding that there has been no talks, nothing along that line involved with the HRM contingent and the contingent from the Department of Transportation and Public Works. I wonder, Mr. Chairman, if I might also advise the honourable member with regard to inspections. Inspections and charges laid during the spring weight exemption period were up significantly over last year, and also there were more roadside checks this spring than there has been in the past year.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, but I presume we'll still receive the information, the detail. We're left in a very peculiar position here, Mr. Chair, because the minister has offered absolutely no detail whatsoever on the mechanics of this Capital Transportation Authority. Is the minister able to tell us, well, first of all, I know it was in the speech from the throne, it was included there as a government commitment, but surely to heaven, somebody in the department must be able to give us some detail as to at what stage the discussions or negotiations are. Because I believe it was perhaps a month or so before the House opened when Mr. McClellan from HRM appeared before the Economic Development Committee and indicated there had been considerable discussion up to that point, but things seem to have just died off altogether. Because the province chose not to pursue further discussions. That was my interpretation of his words anyway. Can the minister give us something a little more substantive to better understand this issue?
I'd like to recognize the Minister, Department of Transportation and Public Works.
All that I can tell the honourable member, quite truthfully, is that the discussions at the present time are not in limbo, but they are on hold until such time as I get more time to arrange some meetings. With regard to the talks, I think we have a tacit agreement with HRM that we're not going to talk publicly about our own respective positions until such time as the talks have gelled and some decision-making has taken place.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Well, we're getting a little closer. Who are carrying on the discussions or negotiations for the province?
The Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
I can tell you that it's he's the CEO, George McClellan. Yeah, George McClellan is CEO for the city, and my deputy minister, Mr. Stonehouse.
Thank you, Minister. I recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Are the leads? Are the leads? Are there any other officials involved in the discussions or negotiations?
The Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
There have been a number of staff people involved in the periphery, but not really directly. As I say, this is very, very early, and it's quite a complicated process. All that I can say is that hopefully by the end of this calendar year, we will have in place an authority.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. It was in the speech from the throne document. Who came up with the idea initially? Did it come from the HRM or did it come from the province? And no, it wasn't the member for Dartmouth North.
Recognize the Minister of Transportation and Public Works. Order, please. Minister.
I think the Capital Transportation Authority has been kicked around for quite a long time. It certainly was in our blueprint in the past election, and excuse me, I wasn't privy to discussions prior to that because I'd taken an leave of absence from the Department of Transportation, and I was down looking after insurance matters in the Department of Environment and Labor. So I presume perhaps in that period between when I left transportation and came back again that somebody had some discussions somewhere along the line, and it was included in our blueprint that we would be proceeding with legislation.
The member from Cape Breton West.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to ascertain from the minister as to whether if a minister issues a letter indicating specifically that a road, a piece of highway in the province will be paved, let's say in this particular fiscal year, if there's a letter issued, is that binding on the government? That if a minister issues a letter to the people of a particular community indicating unequivocally, clearly, that a road in their community will be paved, for example, in this fiscal year, is that binding on the government to fulfill that obligation?
Thank you for the question. Recognize the Minister of Department of Transportation and Public Works.
Any letters that I issued are binding, yes. Other letters, as I say, I don't know, but I can gather we're going somewhere with this particular question. Well, thank you very much, but I know you would. Mr. Chairman, as the honourable member knows, and we're not talking to a neophyte in this House. This gentleman was a cabinet minister one time, and he knows full well that you don't spend your budget before you've even taken a look at what your cut is of the budget, and you've got to divvy it up. And if somebody, for instance, promised to pave the 104 from and straighten out the road between Sydney and Port Hawkesbury, well, then, I mean, they made that promise, but it's impossible to fulfill. So, as I say, I would have to know more details from the honourable member, just where this road runs.
Thank you, Minister. Moving on, I'd like to recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We will be tabling some documents on a future moment, but I just wanted some clarity. If a minister of the Crown, particularly the Minister of Transportation, indicates quite clearly to the residents of a community that a road in their community will be paved in this fiscal year, is that not binding on the department and the government?
The Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
This leads me back, Mr. Chairman, to an old story, and that was back in 1993 when we had an election, And the then Minister of Transportation not only gave me a letter that a certain bridge was going to be replaced, but he also let the tender and the contractor was on site. Now, there was a successive Minister of Transportation took over the portfolio, and he canceled that contract, sent the contractor home, and I believe he built a bridge in his own writing. So.
The member from Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, one thing we can safely say is that bridge went to somewheres. It didn't go to nowheres. Like a certain one down in the Eastern Shore. But perhaps we'll just shift the focus just slightly for the time being and go to the supplement to the public accounts. For his department, page 179. I noticed there's a line item there. Buckley's Music Center, $157,575.82. Was that for piano lessons? Perhaps we should get a little more detail on how many piano lessons that included.
I'd like to recognize the Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
This was part of our capital program. We purchased musical equipment for schools.
Thank you, Minister. I recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I noticed where the department in the last fiscal year or so moved from Purdy's Wharf to the complex across from the legislature here. I would like to focus on the amount of money that's being spent by the department on rental fees. I know the department has its own properties and so on. Can the minister confirm if his department is renting any properties for his department specifically? I know they do the negotiations and the management for other departments, but specifically for his, if he can identify in any issues where properties are being rented in various locations throughout the province, and how much is being paid per square foot for each of those issues. I can take it on notice if the minister doesn't have it at hand.
I'd like to recognize the Minister of Transportation, Public Works, the Deputy Premier of Nova Scotia. Minister.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We, as the honourable member has brought to the attention of the committee, we rent a tremendous amount of property because all rentals in the public service go through the Department of Transportation. But insofar as the department itself is concerned, we own all our properties.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member of Cape Breton West.
The minister's department looks after the issue of property rentals for other departments, the lead agent. Would the minister be given undertaking to the committee that he will provide a list of those properties that are being leased by each of those departments and where those properties are and the amount per square foot?
Minister of Transportation, Public Works.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we can do that. The honourable member understands the quantity of paper that's going to be generated to put that report together, but yes, we can do that.
Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the minister for that undertaking because I think that's very important. Mr. Chairman, perhaps just on a few local issues in my constituency, and I'd like to recognize and thank the minister and his staff, the deputy minister, for the commitment to further upgrading on the number 4 highway. It's desperately needed, as you well know, through you, Mr. Chair. And there is some RIM money being expended as well, albeit not a lot, but I know that you're certainly working within constraints. Point blank, yes or no on some of these questions will pretty well tell me what will or will not be done. And the minister last year indicated quite clearly on the issue of the Marion Bridge Highway, no, it would not be paved. Is that the case again this year? Will there be anything done on that road?
The Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Well, you picked a project that we're looking at. I know that he brought it to the attention of the deputy and myself. We have made there's been no decision on that as yet. As I explained to the honourable member from Pictou West, that the capital program is not as yet solidified. There are contracts going out, tenders going out, but however, we will be continuing that process right through until the fall, because as I say, we're trying to level out the work that the tender process, so that contractors can reasonably assign their workforce to a variety of projects, and also accumulate maybe 2 or 3 tenders in the same area so they can operate out of the same plant. It's to their advantage, and certainly to ours in getting a price. If I can just leave that subject for one moment, the deputy gave me a table, Mr. Chairman, which shows that we have 231 leases in the province, 1.5 million, almost 1,000,006 square feet of property rental, for an annual rental fee of $27,177,739.50. I'll have the detail though of those leases and the rental arrangements, each one by square footage. I'll have it try and have it before the House rises.
The member from Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the minister for his undertaking. A few other local issues. Well, there are so many that I think it would be unfair to take so much time of the committee just to go into great detail, because I know our time is limited. But I'll just make reference to a few of them just for future considerations. The issue of the Troutbrook Road in the Meyer district, the minister would be familiar. That's where his former colleague lived before his passing. That highway runs along the south side of the Myra River, basically. And there are locations on that road where it's very close to the Myra River, and there's guardrails, and that's fine. On the high side, it's a very steep bank, and it precludes the sun from getting to the road in a reasonable period of time during the winter months and wet periods. And as a result, that road is in a constant need of repair. And if some consideration, there are a few locations there that the minister or his staff may want to take a look at to kind of push that bank, claw that bank down some. Maybe if they're looking for fill for another location or what. But it's really an issue that is not going away, and there's always road problems there would build up of ice and so on. And I leave that with the minister. I've already addressed the Manitou Road with the minister. He knows that the Donkin-Morion Highway is a washboard. That's what it is. And so there are issues like that there. The Lewisburg Highway, well, you have to have a back brace if you go out there. I don't know how many tourists go out there. If they think they're going back in time when they go to the fortress, they're back in time before they even get there when they drive over that highway. It's you get out of your car and you've got the shakes. That's about the size of it. And there are so many others, but I think the minister has a sense. And I want to acknowledge, actually, the staff at the local level. They do a great job. They're very responsive. They can't always do what people like myself request, but they're very obliging, and I think the level of professionalism that's extended, I'm sure, not only to myself but to the people at large who call, sometimes very, very frustrated, and I think it's important to recognize that. But I wanted to, I'll table this letter for the minister, if it could be so bold. July 4th, 2003, it was addressed to the Honourable Gordon Balzer, MLA, constituency Digby, Annapolis, P.O. Box 1827, so on. Dear Gordon, I am writing to advise you that the Department of Transportation and Public Works will be repaving a section of the Sisebo Road from 3.2 kilometers east of Trunk 1 in Weymouth, easterly to the end of the road during the 2004 construction season. Our infrastructure provides a vital transportation link for both commercial and domestic travelers. I trust that this project will assist in improving the road infrastructure in the constituency of Digby Annapolis. Yours truly, Michael. Signed, Michael. Michael G. Baker, QC. And then it was CC'd to Martin Delaney, Executive Director of Highway Operations. Can the minister confirm, if you can get me a copy as well, if that road will be paved this year?
The Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Long Island. Long Island. There was a commitment made, I believe, and I don't know what kind of a commitment it was, to actually pave two roads. One was the Sisebo Road, and the other one was the highway on Long Island, and I'm getting a nod from the gods up there, and so I'm right. I must tell you that yes, that was a commitment that was made, but unfortunately we can't do both this year. I mean, it's just physically impossible within the framework of the dollars that we have. What we are going to do is probably not do the Sisebo Road. We're going to do a portion of the highway on Long Island. Getting nods again, and that will be going to tender very shortly. But insofar as that commitment, yeah, the only thing is it's going to have to be delayed, simply because, as I say, the funding requirements and the situation. But the other one, I think I've actually signed off on the tender on that other one. But anyway.
Thank you, Minister. I recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the minister for his answer on that. There was quite a flurry of letters that were signed by the former Minister of Transportation and Public Works on commitments such as the one I just referenced. In June and July of 2003, undertakings in various communities and constituencies across the province. And I'm sure none of that had anything to do with the provincial election. It was probably just coincidental. And I know the Honourable Minister certainly would not do that. Would the minister, the present minister, be kind enough to provide a list of letters similar to that, undertakings that were made by the former Minister of Transportation during the months of June and July 2003?
I'd like to recognize the Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
As the minister is well aware, the previous minister was a lawyer, and lawyers like to write letters, and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't like writing letters. I just do things verbally, and that's why you're not getting too many notes sent across to you. But I would like to assure the honourable member that if I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it. But I don't know if I can retrieve the letters that he wrote to members that members may have. I'm aware of one letter, to be quite honest, besides that one to Mr. Balzer, that went out during the election, and that's the only one that I can think of. And yeah. But if I can locate that, I'll get it for you.
Recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. He may be a lawyer, but he was also Minister of Transportation and Public Works, which obviously would suggest that he had a responsibility. And it was just, I was receiving quite a few concerns about letters like this circulating. I know there was one circulated in my constituency in July, I believe it was July 20th of 2003, of a similar type nature. And I know that the good Minister of Justice, when he was Minister of Transportation, wouldn't engage in that type of politics. I just can't see that he would do that. So whatever the minister could muster, find in the archives of his department would certainly be appreciated, and he's given an undertaking to that effect. That's great. There's another issue. On, again, page 181 of the supplement to the public accounts, there's Corp Finance International Limited, slightly more than $1.7 million. Could the minister indicate what that was for?
The Minister of Transportation, Public Works.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, just be a minute. Yes, Mr. Chairman, that was leases for the trunk mobile radio system, various equipments for that system.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
D&J's cleaning services. There was an item there. I know it seems like a small amount. It may have been for pressing the minister's suit. I don't know. It was for a little over $24,000. What was that? I know your suit is perhaps not quite worth that much, but would the minister indicate what that was for?
Thank you. I recognize the Minister of Transportation, Public Works.
Yes, it's for janitorial services up at the archives, Mr. Chairman. That would be dry cleaning and laundry, etc.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Cape Breton West. Cape Breton West, excuse me, and member, you have 9 minutes left in turn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When the minister and members of his government came to power in 1999, there were 3 federal provincial agreements in place. Highway agreements, the SHIP, or the Strategic Highway Improvement Project, the HIP program, which was the Highway Improvement Program, and I forget what the acronym was for the third. Would the minister apprise members of the committee as to what's the status of what agreements we have with the federal government now, and what's being contemplated for the upcoming fiscal year?
Minister of Transportation, please. Minister.
We're just spending the last of the Strategic Highway Improvement Program funding, and the other one, the HIP, the Highway Improvement Program, is all spent, and the other one is the Infrastructure Program, and we are in the process of negotiating a final agreement on that particular program at the present time. The infrastructure program is the one that I was referring to when I was speaking to the honourable member from Pictou. These are infrastructure programs that come out, and they're open to a variety of different projects. They could be arenas, they could be sewage works, could be waterworks, could be art galleries, or they could be libraries. And highways is just a portion of that funding. And under this last infrastructure program, as I say, we're still negotiating the highways portion.
Thank you, Minister. I recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 183 of the supplements, there's a line item there for $1.6 million to General Chemical Canada Limited. Would the minister indicate what that's for?
The minister.
That's for calcium chloride.
The member from Cape Breton West.
I noticed there are a number of line items there for different oil companies. I would presume that's for fuel supplies and so on. What's the minister's, or like the department's purchasing policy on that? Do they put it out for proposals, call? Do they get a preferred rate from the oil companies? I know like there's one line item here for nearly $4.8 million from Irving Oil alone. What rate does the province pay for their fuel? Is it a little cheaper than if you went to the gas pumps?
Thank you for the question. Recognize the Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Mr. Chairman, in response to the honourable member, some of those contracts are for heating fuel, and we go out to tender and we tender for furnace oil. The gasoline it comes from a variety of suppliers, but it's all credit card purchases, and there's no specific supplier determined in advance for supplying fuel to the gasoline and diesel to the province.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize the member from Cape Breton West with less than 5 minutes, member.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, that would seem to suggest that the government has a particular preference on buying from Irving Oil over other stations by the amount of money that's in the line item here. I'll just leave that unnoticed. One of the issues that's been raised is with regards to the damage to vehicles. And the number of claims since 1999 for claims for damage to vehicles has doubled effectively. And I think that was verified by the FOI pop that I tabled in the last session for the minister. However, the amount of payout was reduced from about 36% down to about 6 or 7%. It strikes me a little unusual that so many Nova Scotians would be putting in claims with malintent. Why has the department become so hard on this particular issue? That's one thing. And to give you an example, for example, in front of, on Kings Road in Sydney River, in front of Lady of Fatima Church, even as we speak, I'm sure someone is receiving damage to their vehicles. I know last week there were 7 wheel disc covers, like hubcaps, as we used to call them, in the church parking lot, and that's over one day. There's a very bad situation there, and it hasn't been addressed. And the department has quite a task of continually going and standing the bump sign up. Would it not be better just to fix that section? It's not just one pothole. It's a string. It's one large pothole that strings upwards of probably 150 to 200 feet in length, and wide enough that a tire would go down and gouge out. If the minister were given an undertaking to address that, and this issue about claims, I'm inundated with constituents and people from across Nova Scotia claiming that the department is being unreasonable on this particular issue.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize the Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
I'll have somebody take a look at that pothole, but having said that, we have rather stringent guidelines for payment of claims, and I'm sure the honourable member is aware that sometimes, particularly in the cooler months, it's very, very difficult to adequately patch a hole. You purchase hot asphalt at a very, very high premium in the winter months. You put it in a hole, it stays there overnight, and the next day the first truck that passes across it, it pops out as a lump, and you've got the pothole back again. So it, yes. And so, so those things happen, and I'm not saying they're an act of God, because they're not. They're an act of a truck that's coming along, probably running over the pothole. But we do have stringent guidelines insofar as paying claims are concerned. Every claim is investigated by our claims officer. One of the things is that for instance, if the pothole has been reported and we've had a reasonable length of time to get there to either repair the pothole or to put up a sign, then we assume no responsibility. So the majority of claims are, unfortunately for the people who make the claims, rejected.
Thank you, Minister. The honourable member has about 45 seconds left.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to thank the Minister and his staff for their undertakings and the commitments. Just in closing, I'd be remiss if I didn't comment on Armstrong's Hill going out to Gabroos. It's on the Gabroos Highway. I think the Minister of Education would be familiar with this site. Perhaps this year, if he'd be kind enough to put a sign on the top of Armstrong's Hill showing that deer grazing, because the grass is growing up in the center line and the deer are coming out of the woods to feed on the grass. So if they can't fix the road, at least put a sign up warning motorists that their deer are grazing. Thank you.
Thank you for your closing remarks, member. I'll recognize the honourable member for Halifax Atlantic.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to share my time with several of my colleagues because, as everybody knows, there's a road or a transportation issue in just about every corner of the province. And I really wanted to ask something that we've been dealing with throughout this entire exercise, and I know that it's been brought up just earlier. But it's around the issue of municipal versus provincial roads, and more specifically around the issue of ex-federal roads. There are, in fact, a couple of roads in my constituency which used to service federal property, and because they are no longer used by the federal government, they are not being maintained by the federal government. But in reliance, households have developed over the years along those. Now, the municipality is not accepting responsibility for those roads, and I believe a couple of years ago, the minister wrote saying that the province was not accepting more roads either. And I'm just wondering what does happen in those kinds of impasses.
Thank you, member. The honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Yeah, I thank the honourable member for Halifax Atlantic. The difficulty is with these roads that are more or less abandoned by any authority, whether it be municipal, provincial, or federal, is that people are seduced by country living to finagle a building permit and building a residence on that particular abandoned highway or abandoned road. And then they, of course, expect service, and they don't get it. We have a rule in the province, and I hope I'm still correct. It used to be if there were 3 houses on a private road, and I'm getting a shake of the head. I guess that is no longer a policy, but at one time we did have a policy with regard to certain roads. Are these? Can I ask a question of the honourable member? Are the roads in HRM? You can nod your head. Okay, they are in HRM. Well, then I would suggest that you should contact the city, which you've probably already done, and ask them if they have any plans to take those roads over. And once again, how many? I also want to know how many houses there were there, and a lot. Okay, 12 of them. So. This is like a fishing expedition. Well, no. What I'm going to say is this: is that there are ways out of the quandary that those people face, but it depends on a whole variety of things. And I would encourage the honourable member to speak to me sometime when we're out in the coffee shop here, and maybe we can do something.
Thank you, Minister, for your answer. The honourable member for Halifax Atlantic. The floor is yours.
No, no problem. Thank you very much. I will just clarify that those 12 houses were built before the abandonment of the road, so they weren't built on an abandoned road. I don't think there was any question of finagling a permit, but yes, I would love to talk to you about that further. The other question, well, somewhat related, is on the Capital District Transportation Authority, and I realize that that's a very live issue. And the constitution of it is still in flux, but I was wondering whether there have been or are going to be discussions with or any mechanism for including the interests of the municipalities which border HRM, simply because the Transportation Authority's effects will obviously extend to the very outermost limits of HRM. And I would imagine that that will have an impact on development patterns. Is there any mechanism proposed for ensuring that those municipalities do in fact have?
Thank you, member, for that question. The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
That is an excellent question because, as the member may or may not be aware, we have in HRM about 700 kilometres of roads which the province services, and for which the HRM pays us a certain amount of money each year. No? I'm getting mixed signals here from upstairs and downstairs. So maybe I should give you my interpretation. That's always difficult. But I can tell you that there are 700 kilometres of roads that we look after in the city, and whether or not we get paid for them, I see, is a matter of some discussion. But we would love eventually with the city to have some kind of an exchange somewhere down the road, so that the city took over all the roads. One of the problems that I'm told happens in HRM is that people phone up and they say an HRM plow went right by the end of my road and didn't come up and plow it. And what are you guys doing? And then they say, well, that's the province. Then the province comes along and plows a couple of roads, and then they say, they blame the province because they didn't plow such and such a road. So it's not a very clean system. It's not a good system. And hopefully, as we get into discussions with HRM on the Capital Transport Transportation Authority, we will perhaps be able to work out some kind of agreement that's mutually advantageous, not only to HRM but also to the province.
Thank you, Minister. The Honourable Member for Halifax Atlantic.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. I hope that it will in fact be possible to include the concerns of those outlying, of those areas that are at the border of HRM as well, because they do stand to be significantly impacted by whatever transportation decisions are made at that level, 700 kilometres or more. But I guess I'm just about ready. I had one other question, which is perhaps your field, perhaps not. I'm not sure. It may seem strange, but it's simply about dump trucks, commercial vehicles, and there are a number of occasions when I have had people reporting, that this load of whatever quite unexpectedly went to somewhere else. And I wondered whether there is, apart from driver's licenses, which are a little difficult, is there any system, or has there ever been a system of identification of construction vehicles which are on the road? I mean, just numbers, anything like that?
Thank you for that question. The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
I can't answer your question directly because I'm not quite sure where you're coming from. If you're speaking about contractors' vehicles, they would have a certain class of license and they would be traceable. Is that?
Thank you, Minister. Your time is being passed to the Honourable Member for Cape Breton Nova. Sorry, Member, Cape Breton Nova.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'm honored here to rise today to ask the Minister of Transportation a couple of questions here, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, in my riding, I have one of the most dangerous roads in all of Nova Scotia, known as the Sydney-Glace Bay Highway. When that road was designed, Mr. Speaker, it was designed so terrible that there's not even a pull-off lane on that road, Mr. Speaker. If your car breaks down, you can't even pull off anywhere in an area of safety to get any safety from oncoming traffic. If a police car stops a vehicle on that road, Mr. Speaker, or an ambulance stops to help somebody, you cannot pull off anywhere as a safety. There's no pull-off lanes on that road. The road has been, and the hydroplaning on that road. I had a recent, went to University College of Cape Breton in a rainstorm recently, and all I could do to hold my car on the road at such a low speed. Mr. Speaker, the road is treacherous. It's the Sydney-Glace Bay Highway, and I know presently right now there's a corridor study underway right now on that piece of road, Mr. Speaker. The day I was elected to this legislature, on September the 4th, I was sworn in on this legislature here, Mr. Chair. And when I was sworn in, the news from home was a young man was hit by a car trying to catch the school bus on that piece of highway. I'll never forget that day, September the 4th of 2003, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Chair, my question for the minister is, the corridor study that's underway right now, could the minister please tell me when it's going to be completed, or has he seen any of it, and the date for completion on that study, please?
Thank you for that question, member. The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
I'm pleased to confirm what the honourable member has said with regard to the corridor study and the fact that it's a very busy highway and that it is one that certainly requires study to determine how we're going to control the traffic on that highway. Insofar as the finish date or the projected date for the finish of the study, I don't know, and it's not on my briefing sheet down here. But however, perhaps somebody can send me down a projected date. I would think that it's probably going to be towards the end of the year. There's quite a lot of work. They've had one open house, I believe, in February, and I believe there's another open house when they're getting towards the end of the projects to explore what to take a look at the report and perhaps adjust it to meet local consumer needs.
Thank you, Minister. The honourable member for Cape Breton Nova.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. I know all about the study, Mr. Minister, and the open house, and many of my constituents attended that open house. And I was just wondering, trying to get the process speed up because it's such a dangerous highway, but not knowing when it's going to be completed. But the engineering firm CBLC are currently doing that study, and I imagine when they get back. But my other question on that matter is, when the study comes back, the corridor study on the Grand Lake Road Sydney corridor, I was just wondering, will the department honor the recommendations in that report? Thank you.
Thank you, member, for that question. The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Mr. Chairman, this is a mutual study, as the honourable members are aware, between CBRM and the Department of Transportation, and together we will review the report, and if it's doable, it'll be done.
Thank you, Minister. The honourable member for Cape Breton Nova.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's just that it's such the highway, I guess the people out on the Kites Hill Drive extension and along that corridor, and I'll tell you a story before I sit down, a very short story. I have to pass off some time to my colleague from Dartmouth North, so I'll just give you a quick story, I guess, Mr. Chair, on there's a World War II veteran that lives on the other side of that highway, Mr. Minister, and he's fought overseas during World War II, and at this present time he's getting up in age. He'll probably be 80 years of age this year, and he did go to the open house and express his concerns about the study itself and what was going on in there, and he told me that all those years he spent overseas, that he had a better chance of getting killed trying to cross that piece of highway right now in his present day. And he's afraid that he's going to be going into a motorized wheelchair at some time in his life very shortly. And he's just concerned about his safety and some things about slowing the traffic down. I spoke to a Cape Breton Regional Police officer recently who ticketed a young man there doing 140 in a 60. And we've tried everything, and I know the minister has been involved in this since day one, and myself, and we've tried everything to slow the people down on this highway. And I don't know, we've tried signs, we've tried everything, and it just doesn't seem that anything's be working at the... So the constituents in my riding in that area are looking forward to going to the second open house, having a look at what CBLC is bringing back, the engineering firm, and getting on with trying to make that highway a safer place for all people. I think it's 20,000 vehicles a day, Minister, that travel on that highway back and forth. We have call centers now located on that highway, call centers in Glace Bay. The University College at Cape Breton is located there. So the sooner we get the study back from the CBCL group, we will, it'll be greatly appreciated. And I know it's a joint venture between the CBRM and the province, so I guess I'm just looking forward to getting the study backing. And I know the minister has been involved in this since day one, and the sooner we get it done, the better for all the people in my riding, sir, and I appreciate it. I would like to pass off my time now to Mike. Oh, excuse me.
The Minister of Transportation Public Works on your reply.
Chairman, I'd like to advise the honourable member that in late June, July, there will be the second public consult, and the report should be completed in late summer. That'll be around about August, September, somewhere in that area.
Thank you, Minister. Recognize, all right, I'll go back to the member for Cape Breton Nova.
I just would like to thank the minister for those comments, and I think my constituents would thank him when the report is done, and I would like to pass my time off to my esteemed colleague from Timberley Prospect.
Recognize the honourable member for Timberley Prospect.
Thank you. Mr. Minister, you do write good letters, and I know earlier you said you weren't a lawyer, but I have a letter here from you about February 24th, 2004, concerning the Linwood Bridge. That's one of those bridges that was blown out in the, if that's the correct term, in the Brookside subdivision. You said we plan to tender the new structure in the spring of 2004 with an award in June and a completion date of August 31st, 2004. I was wondering if you could confirm that that project is on time and those deadlines will be met. That's the Linwood Bridge, which connects the Club Road to Sarah, to Ben, and to Linwood Drive in the community of Brookside.
Thank you, member. The Minister of Transportation Public Works.
I wrote the letter. I'll confirm the letter, and that's those dates will be met unless something entirely unusual happens. But yes.
Thank you, Minister, for your commitment. The honourable member for Timberley Prospect.
And on the topic of commitments, Mr. Minister, I would like to draw recognition to those men and women who work out of the Beachville base. There are people who work very hard from the Department of Transportation base out of Beachville. They are prompt in getting back to constituents and to myself. In particular, I'd like to draw recognition to Daryl Campbell and Randy Pulsifer. They are professionals and they are good people to work with. Now, I'd like to switch, not negatively, but I'd like to switch to an issue of dealing with the councillors, HRM regional councillors in my area. And I'd like to, if I could, send over to you by way of the page the list of roads that are within my constituency that are shared with the HRM. In 2001, the top 7 roads were paved because of the cost sharing between the regional municipality and the province. In 2002, the next 6, you'll notice the large print, incidentally. That's not just for your benefit, Mr. Minister, it's for mine. In 2003, there was a few more roads paved. Now, 9 of the next 12 roads, and these are roads in subdivisions, and let's be clear, these are roads in exclusive subdivisions in some cases with people who pay big assessments. And the councillors have said this is a list that's generated based on the date of petition by the Halifax Regional Municipality. And they will say, councillors and the mayor will say, we can't do any more paving because there's been no cost sharing of whatever amount for this amount of roads over the next paving season. 9 of the next 12 roads on that list are in the constituency of Timberley Prospect. Can you confirm the amount of money that you have available to the HRM on this cost-sharing basis?
Thank you, member, for your question. The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Yes, when we instituted the program, Mr. Chairman, we came up with $1 million to be cost-shared with the municipal units to generate $2 million worth of activity. The amount for HRM this year is $400,000, as I believe, understand, and that would escalate to $800,000 of work. Within the department, Mr. Chairman, we do not prioritize what the municipality. I don't know if the member there can hear me or not. We do not prioritize what the municipalities send in. We go down the list and do it in order. But however, there is a little catch to this, because if, as I say, we have an allocation this year of $400,000, if there was maybe 3 roads that came to 490,000, we might say, well, we can't afford that additional 90,000 and take one road out and insert another one that better accommodate that final figure. Mr. Chairman, could I ask you to recess for about 2 minutes?
We'll have a 2-minute recess. Agreed? Thank you. We'll return to the business of the day, and I'll recognize the Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Yes, I don't think I quite completed my statement with regard to how we chose the roads, but we also, last year, I believe, went a little bit over the $1 million, up to about $1.2 million, I think, or something of that nature. So we are taking this program very, very seriously, Mr. Chairman, because these people are caught in a catch-22 situation, in that their subdivisions were established before the municipal bylaws that came into effect, that a developer must bring his roads up to provincial standards and pave the roads, and that is an excellent bylaw, Mr. Chairman, and one that means that eventually we will no longer have a need for this program, because all those roads that are not accommodated under the bylaw will be non-existent. They'll be paved.
Thank you, Minister, for your answer. The Honourable Member for Timberlea Prospect.
Before I turn my time over to my friend from Dartmouth North, I want to give the Minister a heads up on a situation concerning the Hammonds Plains Road at the end of it, where it meets up with the St. Margaret's Bay Road. This is Route 213. You'll receive some correspondence about this, and the Minister of Education is involved, hopefully, in this discussion. There's a 2-kilometer stretch which takes from the St. Margaret's Bay Road up to the 103. And on that 2-kilometer stretch currently is Tantallon Junior High, Tantallon Elementary, Crossroads Academy, 2 growing subdivisions, and, not to presuppose what the Minister of Education is going to announce, but Sir John A. Macdonald, new and improved, will be built on that stretch of road. We have 2 kilometers on the 213 that needs a major upgrade, and that major upgrade involves the possibility of some directional lights and some other work, which is very necessary because all of these students, of course, will be bused to these schools. So this is a section of road that I point out to you that's between the 103 down towards the St. Margaret's Bay Road, to the number 3, 2 kilometers of road, and I would ask your department to please consider what, before the new high school is opened, presupposing that that is the choice of the Department of Education. It is the choice, incidentally, of the community, the first choice for our new high school. And again, my compliments to the Minister for the support of that project. So I'd ask your department to have a heads up on that section of road. And with those, it's not necessary to respond to that, Mr. Minister, but you're always welcome to respond. But with that, I would like to turn my time over to my friend from Dartmouth North.
Thank you. I'll recognize the member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just waiting for the minister to see if he wanted to respond to my honourable colleague's comments. But first of all, I want to thank our critic, the honourable member from Pictou West, for allowing us to have the opportunity to put some questions forward to the Minister of Transportation. Minister, first I want to thank your department. First of all, with respect to the improved lighting and the installation of the new lighting system along the Victoria Road, and in fact the access and egresses to the 100 Series Circumferential Highway. I know that was a significant cost, and I want to thank you for doing that as well. And it came in at an appropriate time during the election period. So I don't know if that reflected in the increased number of voter support, but at least it was an opportune time for it to come forward. As well as I want to thank the Minister, you and your department, for at least when I first got elected to the legislature, we did not get a letter from the Department of Transportation asking us to list the items of priority. And since in fact your government came to power, my office has received letters from the department asking us for input and listing of the priority items that we might like to see in our constituency, and I have forwarded them on. As well as I also want to thank your department again for the improvements along that 100 Series Highway with respect to cleaning of the shrubbery, cleaning up and doing the landscaping along that area. It's quite a treat knowing that is one of the gateways to the former city of Dartmouth, now called the community of Dartmouth. I want to go on to ask the minister with respect to a commitment that he and I had talked about. I shouldn't say commitment, but at least an issue that we have had some conversation on, and that with respect to, in fact, the circumferential highway, which is part of the 100 Series Highway, from the bridgehead of the A. Murray McKay Bridge up 2 kilometers. And I asked him to have conversation with the Bridge Commission with respect to taking over that. Now, this would save the Department of Transportation a tremendous number of dollars. It would become the responsibility of the Bridge Commission. The Bridge Commission then would maintain it because they're continuously collecting the tolls from that bridge, and it would add to the improvement of the gateway to the city of Dartmouth. So I guess through you, Mr. Chairman, to the minister, where are those talks now? Are they ongoing? Have you had conversation with the Bridge Commission on this? And if you can enlighten me and my constituents, then I'd truly appreciate it.
Thank you. With the member's permission, I'll allow a member to make an introduction. Certainly. The Honourable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Chairman. And I'd like to draw the attention of the host of the West Gallery, where a resident of Truro, a constituent of mine, and also a member of the Chignecto Central Regional School Board, is viewing the proceedings of the host today. It's Raymond Tynes, and I would ask Raymond to rise and receive the warm welcome of the host.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Yes, the member for Dartmouth North and myself did have a number of discussions with regard to the approaches to the bridge. There's no doubt at all there's a dramatic difference on the Halifax side to the Dartmouth side, and unfortunately to the detriment of the city or former city of Dartmouth. That area has been quite neglected. It's overrun with scrub and what have you, and the road and curbing, etc., are certainly subpar. We did, as the honourable member mentioned early in his remarks, upgrade the lighting on the Dartmouth side, and it is a tremendous improvement over what was there. It was done just before the election, but that wasn't to light up any voters or anything. It was just happened to work out that way. But yes, we have had discussions with the Bridge Commission, with the objective of turning over the other side of the bridge to the Bridge Commission for maintenance and for landscaping and what have you. There are, however, certain reservations that the Bridge Commission has because of the state of the highway and a few other things with regard to the tight circle coming off Victoria Road to the on-ramp, which makes it very difficult for semi-trailers coming around the corner to avoid having their wheels run up on the curb and what have you. So those things are going to have to be fixed before the Bridge Commission will take it over, and that's quite understandable. We are still in the discussion stages with the Bridge Commission, but Mr. Chairman, those talks are moving forward, and I would hope that very, very shortly we will have something concrete to demonstrate that we are moving. In other words, we'll be actually doing something.
The honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the reason why I asked of the ongoing talks with the Bridge Commission, because I do know that the Capital Transportation Authority is still in its infancy. As a matter of fact, the bill still has to come before the House, so I don't want to go into a long debate during your estimates on that, because that in itself will take time, but we need to have that matter addressed. One thing I will ask you, though, Mr. Minister, is with respect to tolled highways. And I know that you've been asked questions around this, but I want to ask you a specific question. Will the government entertain private tolled roads in the province of Nova Scotia?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
I know that the honourable member wants a yes/no answer, but he's not going to get it. Because the answer is going to be a little convoluted. When you say a private toll highway, if somebody wants to put a toll highway across their property, going from their house down to their lake or something, I mean that's no business of ours. However, I know that he's referring to the toll highway, which is known as the Burnside Connector, to connect to the bridge, and that's a different kettle of fish. What we have said is, if HRM will come forward with a proposal, we will look at it. We won't necessarily agree with it, but we will look at it and give it due consideration. Now, someday, sometime, somewhere, there is going to have to be some other methodology of getting from the valley to Burnside to avoid Magazine Hill. Because Magazine Hill at the present time is a very, very bad choke point along the driveway into the city, and something has to be done. We can't afford to build a bypass at the present time, to be quite frank. So if the city comes forward with an alternate plan, we would look at it.
The honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And my question, my response to the minister would be is that you can't afford not to build a highway on the Burnside Connector. And I would remind the honourable member that when the Savage government was in power, I served on Dartmouth City Council. When the government, the minister, that government could not afford to put the extension of the 107 bypass. That in fact the City Council at that particular day decided to pay for it, and at a later date would be reimbursed by the province. And and that's exactly what happened. I just want to ask a couple more questions, and then I will pass it on. The next question is to the minister with respect to the Woodland Avenue signalized intersection. Has your department had conversation with HRM with respect to changing the structure and the accesses to that signalized intersection, along with a signalized flashing light and or the cutting out of right-hand turns?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation. The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
I'm a little lost. I tell you, quite honestly, every time I go to Dartmouth and I come off the bridge, I usually end up someplace that I hadn't intended going to. I can always get lost. But are you speaking about the interchange that comes off and goes onto the shopping center? Yes. Okay. Yes, I know what you're talking about now. Yes, indeed, there are plans afoot, and they will be solidified very shortly. And when we get something definite, we'll let the member know.
The Honourable.
But something is going to happen.
The Honourable Member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm glad to hear that that's something that's going to happen. Thank you, Mr. Minister, and I'm hoping that will happen this year. The final question is this. Minister, when the Capital Transportation Authority is in fact comprised and the structure is there, the body is there, will it be comprised of the Bridge Commission as well?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
I can't answer that question because I don't want to compromise the negotiations that will ensue later on this spring with HRM. But however, I'm sure the city will have some things to bring forward, as we will.
The Honourable Member for Dartmouth North. The Honourable Member for Pictou West.
I know we look alike, but sometimes we get mixed up. But I want to join back in the questioning here, and as you can see, Mr. Speaker, we are a team here. We shared our time, and but I think it's important that all members that want to have an opportunity to ask some questions of the minister when he's available, and I know before our hour is out, we may well have some other members that may wish to join in and ask a few questions. I want to come back to some of the questioning I was on a little earlier, and but I want to point out that in the county that I come from, in Pictou County, I want to take a moment, I guess, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, to thank the staff that from the Department of Transportation and Public Works that I work with, from the district engineer, Mr. Roger Garby, right down to the various operations supervisors, and certainly right to the various QP staff and people that work on the ground on a daily basis. They've all been very cooperative to me, and I would say especially during the time of the big snowstorm in February. I guess we called it White Juan. It was devastating in my county as it was throughout the province, and I certainly commend the staff, all of them, for excellent work. They worked long hours to get the roads open, and like I said, they'd be commended for an excellent effort in that regard. Now I want to come around to the highway workers and the QP union, and I know we discussed this a little earlier, but the RIM projects, I guess, that are involved in the province right now, I understand it's around $12.5 million, and that's an increase from previous years. But those contracts, when they're let, there's some for graveling, some for ditching, some for asphalt patching, and so on. In addition to the private contracts that are out there, do you also look at your own highway staff and the QP workers, perhaps to get a shadow bid or a second bid? You know, I know they're capable individuals, as I just said, and are they also have the opportunity to put in a bid on some of these RIM projects, because they are as capable, as qualified as anybody, I believe. And I'd just like the minister's comment on that.
The Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Mr. Speaker, I should first of all say that I'm delighted that we have a staff that is so universally admired. And when I say that, I'm not trying to earn any brownie points. I'm telling it as it is. I haven't been around the circuit of our various garages for a while, but I intend to this summer. But I did a couple of years or so ago, and it was just amazing the opinion held by people who had phoned the garage, who had little jobs done, etc. Universally admired the type of service they got, and more importantly, I think, the fact that they were treated politely. And sometimes I know that civil servants are accused of not being civil. Well, Mr. Chairman, that's just not true, and it's certainly not true in the Department of Transportation, because they get a lot of irate people on the phone who start off by castigating them, and they have to keep their cool and listen to what the person has, and perhaps try and take care of their problems. So I'm delighted when members say on the floor of the House how well they get along with their local Department of Transportation staff. Having said that, getting back to the business of CUPE and RIM, RIM was put in place, I said originally, for small private contractors to enable them to purchase the machinery and to get to a stage where perhaps they could become bigger contractors along the way. We reserve the RIM program strictly for tenders. It's not owned forces. But however, there are jobs that are done under our own forces, and there are many similar type jobs. I think it's about 20% of our guardrails are replaced. We do guardrail work? Yeah, I think, for instance, about 20% or so of our guardrail work is done by our own forces. We do a great deal of patching, of course. We do some shouldering. We do those things, but however, under that program, which as the member so correctly just said, that $12.5 million, that's all for private contractors. And we get good value for our money.
The Honourable Member for Pictou West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I guess coming back to the projects that you do tender out to, I believe they're tendered on the RIM program. Do you decide first, is the staff that we have, and, we've talked about they're good quality people, they work hard, do they get the opportunity first within department to do some of this work? Or just how do you determine what is done by your own staff and what is actually tendered out, to private contractors, either within Nova Scotia or within the Maritimes, wherever these private contractors are coming from? But what's the criteria for determining which projects are done in-house, so-called, and by private contractors?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
The area engineer knows what his budget is under the RIM program, and he apportions that out in a...
Order, please. Order.
Order.
Order. Would members of the committee afford the Minister of Transportation some latitude to be able to hear himself as well as to express himself? Thank you. The Honourable Minister.
My difficulty, Mr. Chairman, is not hearing myself, it's hearing everybody else. I'm rapidly joining the deaf club. Anyway, he has a certain amount of money allocated under the RIM program to his district, or her district, and that is apportioned in accordance with a fairly broad program that is given to the district. Such and such a percentage of your funds will be spent on guardrails. Such and such a percentage of your funds will be spent on brush clearing. Such and such a percentage on paving and what have you. So he allocates the money up among those particular projects that he knows needs to be done within his district. He or she then advises the.
Order, please. Order.
He or she then and a tender is let for each one of those projects. There are, however, always more projects than there's dollars in the RIM program. So then the allocation would be to own forces doing certain work, which would be very similar to what's out in RIM.
The honourable member for Pictou West.
Okay, I tried to ask this question, I guess, just as our time ran out last time, and I want to know about out-of-province contractors. How many are these RIM projects being tendered to? Now, I thought I heard you say something about they were all within Nova Scotia, but I've had some information that at least in Guysborough County and perhaps elsewhere, there were some contracts let to out-of-province contractors, and I'd just like to get your answer on that. Was there any contracts under the RIM program to out-of-province people?
Up to my knowledge. Now, I can't foresee how it could happen, but however, things do happen sometimes that you can't foresee, so maybe it did happen. We under the RIM program, it is a made in Nova Scotia program, and it's tended by Nova Scotian companies. There are some projects, however, that, and when I'm talking about that, I mean major tenders, not under the RIM program, but under the capital program, which go out to tender, and we do occasionally get tenders from out of province, and occasionally they win a tender. For argument's sake, there was something that we did a few years back. I think it was the first time we used recycled asphalt in the province, where we used an emulsion mixer, and I think for those first tenders, we had people come in, I believe, from either Quebec or New Brunswick. But then we got the equipment here, and now that work, of course, can be done here.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me this opportunity to make an introduction. I wonder if I could draw the attention of the House to the West Gallery. There are two individuals I'd like to introduce. One, of course, is no stranger to this House, the former leader of the New Democratic Party of Nova Scotia, the former leader of Canada's New Democrats, and MP for Halifax, Alexa McDonough. And a fellow who is a former city councillor for the City of Toronto, a former head of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and currently the leader of the Federal New Democratic Party, Jack Layton. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I, too, on behalf of the entire House, welcome our two distinguished guests. The Honourable Member for Pictou West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I, too, welcome our special guests here. We're certainly very glad to see both our leaders here today. Mr. Chair, I know we've only got a few minutes left, and I'm going to move on with the Minister to a different topic. And I want to ask about Boat Harbour and some of the remediation work that's being done there. And I know your department is responsible for that under Public Works. Could I ask then, Mr. Chair, to the Minister, what remediation work is being done at Boat Harbour? And there's some concern there, certainly in my county, in Pictou, about the work that's being done and perhaps the danger to the fishery. And lobster fishermen in particular are concerned about the dredging that will occur there and the outflow that will be going into the Northumberland Strait. So could I ask, Mr. Minister, what the plans of your department are there, and just how soon is it going to take place?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation, there are approximately 2.5 minutes left before the moment of interruption.
To answer the question, really, Mr. Chairman, so I might just skate around it for a minute or two, but I promise the Honourable Member I'll address it when we come back after the moment of interruption. I was looking up there at Ms. McDonough, and I remember in question periods when she was sitting over there, and she was the only member in the House from the New Democratic Party, so from little things, bigger things have grown. Taken a long time, mind you, but you're sort of getting there. Anyway, With regard to Boat Harbour, yes, I will come to that. We have done. I shouldn't say we have done, but the band and the people involved from the mill and the department have done a fantastic job with Boat Harbour, and it's an ongoing process. But compared to what it was originally, it's certainly a brand new ball game. So if the honourable member would permit me, I'll come back to that afterwards and give him an up-to-date rendition of what's going on. And also, I can pass him on a briefing note, I think, as well, regarding Boat Harbour.
The honourable member for Pictou West, you have approximately one.
I'll just ask you a couple other questions in relation to Boat Harbour, and I guess you're going to come back after the moment of interruption. I guess the concern there was for the fishermen. They want to know that their industry is going to be protected, and I just need what assurances you're taking to safeguard the fishery. And secondly, is there any plans to perhaps turn over that whole Boat Harbour project to the polluter, to the company, to Kimberly-Clark? Will they be responsible for that project in time? So I'll leave that with you till after the interruption then.
Yes. Perhaps the minister will have half an hour to contemplate an answer for that. We'll now adjourn the